Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
It's 91.3 Capital FM, Desert Island Discs, as it always is every Sunday evening, sharing with you life's extraordinary stories from what would otherwise be ordinary folk. This evening on the program, we are privileged to have a self-made, I want to use this word not in any condescending way, but just appreciate the fact that this is a self-made young man, and when you look at him, you feel the young vibe and the fresh youth in him. But let's say he has touched your life in more ways than one. I'm sure wherever it is that you're watching us from, if you have chanced on being in Uganda, you have ridden that border, the unsafe ones I mean. If you've chanced on safe border, now tonight you meet the brain behind safe border. Good evening, welcome to the program, Ricky Rapa.
Thank you so much, Solomon, for inviting me to this show. I'm more than happy to share my story with the rest of the listeners. It's such a pride to be on Capital. You know, we grew up listening to it when we were still very young, and today we're being hosted on the show. So it's very humbling for us to be hosted, for a person like me to be on such a program.
When you're on the other side listening or watching, and one day you find yourself here, being listened to or watched, something happened in between. You distinguished yourself. Without a doubt, you have Ricky. Now we'll go down to this whole idea of safe border. Even before we ask about your life story, safe border. Let's assume it's the first time someone is meeting safe border. What is safe border?
In a nutshell, the simplest definition is we're a community of entrepreneurs working with border riders, to basically empower them and connect them to customers using the platform. So these are communities of borders who are already in the industry. And basically these are people like myself who was already border in the industry. And what we just did is we got these people together, trained them, gave them a brand, attached them, gave them an identity, which is like the Safe Border brand, and connecting them to customers using technology. It's in a nutshell, that's what exactly we have done.
So Ricky, here I was thinking that you own all these borders and jackets. I see the word safe border. So you're like this guy of Uber who runs an entire fleet of Ubers around the world.
I'm not sure if I know what you're talking about, something called Uber, but I know very well that borders have been in existence before. And basically, we used to ride on our own. We used to have no identity. We used to have no sense of belonging. You remember the stories during 2010 when borders would beat everybody. So whenever the group would beat people, they would say, "Oh, you border." Before that, there was a group called Koboka. They would do all the wrong things that you don't want to shit with. Even when you're clean, they would still say you're a bad person. Border industry had been linked to criminality, to every wrong thing. You know, they would say we like every cases of rape, every cases of theft, every cases of stealing bags and stuff like this. Borders, accidents, everything. They say, I mean, every accident that happens, it was caused by border. It was caused by border. It was caused by border. Not knowing that there are people like us who came from nowhere to the border industry. And the getting in the border industry was a dream for us. And we wanted to succeed while in the border industry. And succeeding meant for us to do the right things. Right things mean being respectful to the customers, following the traffic rules and regulations, being as cooperative as possible, being patient, being fair even when you charge your customers. So these are things that we're missing in the border industry, because there were really like a few bad people. And of course, these things would get into media. But then the number that were really good, people will not talk about them. Even if you talk about them, they will say, border, baby. But also the same people would say borders are bad people, borders are criminals, borders are wrong groups of people, borders are failures in life. They actually have relatives, and they have relatives who are actually riding borders.
Or even they own the bicycle.
Or they even own the borders. They're even investors in the border industry. And food that they would eat at home would be delivered by border. Their children are being taken to school by border. Their women are leaving home using border. Themselves, when they get stuck in traffic, they will jump on a border. But this is the same person who will sit on a dining table having coffee and say, "About border man to baby." And we needed to change that. Because we were the people in the industry. We own the industry. This was our industry. We done everything to make sure that we clean it up. And today, we can celebrate it.
I don't know how easy it was cleaning it up. You have to show us where you poured the dirty water. But before we get into that, I need to know you. I mean, for someone that wakes up, finds himself in an industry that lacks regulation, that is associated with everything nasty that there is in this polity, and yet successfully cleans it up and gives it an identity and brand like you have successfully done, there must be something about it.
I think let's say we have done. Because I like the surfboard brand that you see.
You actually keep speaking in plural. I want to know, who is this we?
We is the team. And it's very simple, that there is no brand that's built by one man. Even God had helpers. At a certain point, I don't know much about Bible, but you also hear of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. So, so at a certain point, everyone needs the other. You cannot have a child without the mother. So you cannot have a family when you're alone. You literally, if you look at every big brand, there's always been a team behind it. So it's very important as entrepreneurs, as fellow business leaders, to recognize that the success of your business is not just about you. It's about the people. It's about the smart people that you put and manage them to work together. Because it's very difficult actually to manage smart people. Yeah, but fools is very easy to.
I think you will agree with me that, as someone once said, it rises and falls on leadership. Team, yes, I agree entirely with you, but it has to be that team leader.
Yeah,
that's why you're seated over there.
Thank you.
Tell us about yourself. There must be something about you we need to know. Now let's start from the basics, Ricky. Who are you? Where were you born? When were you born? To whom were you born?
My story is quite a long one, though I'm actually very young and still a youth. You know, some of the stories that I tell is basically for mature people. Mature people, I mean people who are like over 50.
Like me, who has been around for a long time.
I don't think you I don't think you're over 50, but you still look very young though. You'll tell us the magic that you use. So basically, Ricky is a young man who comes from the northern part of this country. You know, Uganda has got all these different sections, and I'm a Luo speaker. So I come from, I don't know if it's called a tribe, Langi. I'm a Langi by tribe. From a small village called Rapa, and my name is Rapa. And the parish used to be Kachung, but now it's called Achoto. No, sub-county. Okay. From Achoto sub-county, from Achoto parish, Guata sub-county, and the district is now called Dokolo. I grew up.
You don't actually pronounce the K, it's Dohoro.
No, it's Dokolo. Like it has to. We need to give it a feel, right? We need to hype these things. Yeah. Even my name, the way I pronounce it is not the way like they pronounce it at home. Because here I'll tell you, my name is Rapa, right? But at home they'll say Rapa, so it doesn't sound. Yeah, you give it a vibe.
You're young man.
No, you know we're creatives, right?
I know.
And all these things you need to use it to your advantage.
Without a doubt. So which year was this when you were born in that?
15 is March 1987.
Recently.
Quite young. I mean, 1 year when NRM came to power, I've never seen any other president. Yeah. Now 33 years. But
take us to your home, that place you were born, your parents. What were they doing? Did you have siblings?
Yeah, my parents, so my dad and my mom were peasant farmers. Peasant farmers, these are people who would grow crops for food consumption, and maybe a small portion of it they would sell it. The sub-county at the time, the parish at the time had around 3 or 4 schools, and from where I was living to school would be close to around 5 kilometers, 4 or 5 kilometers. So it's a distance that you'd walk and cross like 4 or 5 villages every day to go to school, and then you walk back home again.
Must have been fun.
And it wasn't fun because there was a lot of competition, a lot of fight. Because you have groups coming from different villages.
So you move like.
Yeah, so you move like a gang. Like I don't want to use this kind of word, but it was more of a cocoon, like a gang, like because this village would mingle with this village and that village, and then these other people would like there was a lot of competition, yes. And in 1994, that's when I actually joined school. I think 1994, 1995. It was really, really tough where there was a lot of fight every day. And I did the walking for like 8 years because I had to repeat P7 even after passing. So I went to the school is now called, the school is actually still there, called Kachung Primary School. But from that school, there are now like 5 other schools
that have come up in this.
that has come up. I think 5 or 6 other schools, or even more. The one I know is now Kachung Primary, then Kachung Junior, and then a Chorro Primary. Then there's also another one here. Then another one. Quite a number. So you used to have so many people walking very long distance. I think I was actually nearer to school because other people would walk much longer distance than myself. Also,
did you have elder brothers?
I had my elder brother, but he would protect me, but he protected me for only 1 year. In 1995, unfortunately, he passed on. So I became the eldest. But you know, also coming from a family where you had a lot of neighbors and stuff like that, so I had a lot of protection as well. So you couldn't really touch me. One thing that I really remember is that before I reached P3, it was more of okay. But when I reached P3, you had to first go to the garden and dig. Yeah. So you would wake up in the morning, go to the garden and dig, because if you don't go to the garden and dig, you will not have food at home. So we would wake up in the morning, run to the garden and dig, and then after you're finished digging, then you run to school. So going to school was never walking, it was always running in the morning and running back in the evening, because you could never make it. Yeah, so for us also, we used not to shower at home. Because where I come from, like the lake is just so close. So after school, you go home, drop your bag, change your clothes, and then now you run to the lake so to go and shower. Then you come back home.
With water?
Yes, with a jerry can of water. That was a must, by the way, because if you don't come up with a jerry can of water, then what will you use for washing your hands? How will they clean the dishes around and stuff like that? Of course, we would come back, then go to the kitchen again and start cooking, because...
You can cook?
Yes. I grew up cooking because I was the eldest. I had my sister. My sister is like the 4th or the 5th who came after me. So literally, my sister was born when everyone else. I raised almost all my brothers. Because after me was another brother, then a brother, then a brother, then a sister. So really, like by the time my sister was born, I was really like way too old. And you couldn't really refuse to cook because your mom is telling you have to cook for your brothers and you have to help her peel stuff. I mean, these are things. Today you hear people saying, I don't want to cook and stuff like that. For us, it was a normal thing, because if you don't want to cook, then you don't want to eat as well. So, so very, very simple analysis, because now they've brought cassava from the garden, right? Your mom carried it all the way from the garden to the compound. And now when it reaches the compound, you just get a knife, chop, take off the skin, put it in a saucepan, you wash it, put it on fire, and it cooks itself. So it's nothing complicated. It's not like this thing where you have to fry, you have to measure this oil, this butungulu oil. That wasn't there. Even up to today, I still like a lot of beans and cassava. This is, to be honest with you, that's what I actually like to eat. Because I grew up like eating. Today, the kind of beans I eat are very nice, they're very unique.
La pena.
Because, no, leave alone the la pena. Leave alone the la pena type. But then the real beans, because for us, we eat black beans. I don't know if you've seen them.
I've seen them.
Yeah, black beans. They're very tasty and very healthy. Men who eat black beans are very smart.
I will take it and I make sure I know. On the program,
So
before you tell me what the black beans do to young men, can you play your first song?
My first song, right now.
Yes, right now.
My first song right now, I think it's "You and Me" by Lydia Jasmine.
Why do you like that song, You and Me, Lydia Jasmine?
I also know how to love. And Lydia Jasmine is such an interesting musician. She's very, very talented. Yeah, but also there are honest truths that you...
So who is this you in the song that you are referring to?
So You and Me is really like a vibe. It's a nice song that would go to my beautiful wife, yes.
Wow, incredible. We'll be finding out how you met your beautiful wife along the way in the program. But let's first
Will you not ask me that?
Let's listen to this song first.
Yeah.
Get into the mood, and then we'll proceed with your life story.
Thank you.
It's Desert Island Discs. We'll be right back. It's Ricky sharing his life story.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
91.3 Capital FM, Desert Island Discs. It is, and yes, there is when you have a conversation with a guest on the program and you feel their vibe from the inside of you. Ricky is one such guest. He shares with you his life story, but in a very modest and witty way. I mean, look at him. brainchild behind Boda Boda, but he didn't want to take all the credit. He believes it was team effort, and up to today, he knows that you can't do anything without that team effort. But also, he's had his bit of share of the batterings of life. And that's why he's here on the program, share with us his life story. So, the man that eats black beans and do a lot of magic to young men.
Yeah, but also the interesting part about the black bean was really like, it's about like the environment, like, and it was like a common food that we grew up eating. We didn't know like the magic about black beans. I still eat a lot of cassava today because a lot of people will tell you cassava doesn't have a taste. Like, yeah, some people will tell you because there's cassava in sweet potatoes.
Have they eaten that cassava around the kafu
there? They tell them.
It is white.
Yeah.
I think it is raw. But inside
is there's a lot.
But you have to have a 1 liter of water at least, or else the next morning you'll be screaming from wherever it is that you are.
Yeah. So,
Ricky.
Yes.
Did you say you spent 7 years in that primary school and
8
added
years.
an extra year?
Yeah. 8 years.
Even after passing P7?
Yeah.
Why?
Because there was no money to go to secondary school.
Wait a minute. So you passed P7?
Yeah.
And because there's no money to go to secondary school,
yeah,
there is enough money to take you back to primary school.
No, there was no fees at the time. I think because I think I only successfully went to school when the UPE program came.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think my parents had that ability or had the finances to take me to school. Good school at the time was really, really far away as well, so you needed to transport me almost every other day to go to school. So it was what my parents could afford. I did fairly very well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people were there during those days, and anyone who has been able to walk this kind of distance would tell you, like, when you get those kind of points, you're done so well. But I had to repeat because it was a normal thing. Everyone else was repeating. Like, people would pass and then they would tell them back to go and repeat. So it's really like, today repeating is really not the thing. Parents want their children to really like finish school real fast.
Perhaps even jump a few classes.
Yeah, but today, they will keep you in primary. I know people did P7 like for 3 years, 4 years.
Waiting for fees
to be gathered, and they never make it. They maybe make it to secondary school for 2 years and that's it. Things are real tough.
And in your case, so did you eventually manage to go
So how I got myself to secondary school was the help of the church. So there was this church that I was praying from. I was one of the youth leaders in the church. It was actually a Rapa Baptist church. It was a Baptist church. Actually, there's actually a branch here in Nakulabi. So I was praying from the church, and the members really, really loved me. They liked me so much. So the members of the church decided, because at that point, at my school, I was the second best. Second best, I got 15.
Wow.
Yes. So the guy who won everything got 12. So first grade was 12, and I was the second best. There was no 13, there was no 14, and we were 3 who got 15. So I would definitely tell you that I was among
you were among the top 5.
Yes, I was among the top 5. So the church decided to do some fundraising for me. So they solicited and got some money. The chimucha kumi and nebasonda sent mu church. So webasonda, they raised up to around 75,000 shillings.
Wow.
The LC one of the area, who actually happens to be my uncle, gave me books to go to school. So you gave me those green budget books to go to secondary school.
Green budget, yeah.
Those green budget books. So he gave me those books, and then my uncle, who was actually a school teacher, primary school teacher, also topped up some money, and I was able to. And my parents also, at that time, my mom had invested so much into making crude warige. They would buy cassava, then turn it into warige. So she did that a lot, and also myself.
I used to help her out.
I used not to help her out in that, but I used to. My father bought 2 boats, the small boats for fishing. So I was doing a lot of fishing as well to be able to raise money. Yes, so I needed like around 320,000 shillings to go to secondary school, to the school I wanted, but we were not able to raise that. So we raised what we could, and I was sent to Aguata SS.
Aguata SS, I know the place.
Yeah. I hope you know the place. It's actually right on the main road.
Exactly.
So I went to Aguata SS for the first term and second term. So second term we never completed it because there was a real issue of konyi at the time. So we actually studied for only like 2-3 weeks, and school was closed because Konyi at that time had become such a terrible thing. It had actually crossed, it was actually now in Dwoke. So they felt like they were just about to reach the school. So the school then sent us home. So we actually had to sleep like in the middle of the lake and stuff like that, in the bush for quite some time, to be able to survive the insurgency. And then we went back, third term. No, third term, they did not send me back to the same school. They sent me to another secondary school in town. I think did something wrong. I don't even remember very well. So I went to that school for only one term. And then the second year, I was sent to Amocha SDA, which at the time was one of the most prestigious schools in northern Uganda. Wow. So from my parish, I think we were less than 5 who had gone to Amocha SDA, and it was very expensive. At the time, school fees was around 140,000 shillings at a term. So that was really, really a lot of money at the time. So, of course, boys who would go to Amocha SDA, DOC, Lao College, they would be like the real guys. Like, that was so prestigious. And I had so much pride that I was studying at Amocha SDA. So, with the help of my other uncles as well and my parents, I made it to Amocha SDA in senior 2. So, senior 2, senior 3. And then in senior 3, my mom got very sick.
Oh dear.
She spent like a year when she was really, really like down. And then in senior 4, second term, my mom passed on. Oh, remember, she was sick and she was the one who was the brain behind my education. When she passed on, it became a real big trouble. I registered for UNEB and I was chased out of school. I came back, they chased me. I came back, they chased me. And finally, I was chased 2 weeks to exam and I never sat my UCE. Yeah. And then I got myself on the street because my dad told me, Ricky, you know what, come back home, get married, because now your mom has passed on. We need someone to take care of these children. So my dad tells me, come home, get married, and be able to take care of your other siblings.
Your dad at that point could not get married again?
I mean, he was still doing his magic because he even had other children after my mom passed on.
Okay. But he wanted an extra
you know, people just, at that time, I think a lot of people, because they don't look very, very far, and they just fear taking on the responsibility. They just think that they can pass that on to their children.
Oh yeah.
And that's a common trend that it has happened to many of my friends, many of my relatives that I know of. A lot of people that I grew up with has got 7 kids, 5 kids, and they stopped studying, and they're really living the kind of life that their parents went through peasant farmers and stuff like that. They non-progressive. The longest place they went to is Leader Town.
And on the other side is Kamdini.
yeah. So they've never really been able to see this part of the world, and I hope they don't do the same to their children, because usually growing up, our parents had a lot of land, so they just show you a piece of land, and you build a small hut, and then you marry,
a wife.
then you become independent.
So what stopped you from finding a wife? I mean, your father had given you a safe landing. Find a wife. I
had a dream in life. I never really, because I know that, and I also think this is going to be a challenge for my children. Growing up as a young boy, I wanted to be a doctor. I had so much anger for saving lives because I'd seen so many people die prematurely. And by the way, this is something that is still happening a lot today. A lot of people are dying because of ignorance. A lot of people are dying because of lack of service. A lot of people are dying because of taking on wrong decisions. A lot of people are dying because they lack the guidance and they lack the technical guidance that they needed from someone who has the exposure and the knowledge.
True.
So I saw my grandfather passed on. I saw my grandmother. I saw my other relatives. I saw how my brother died. I saw how my mom died. So
these were avoidable deaths.
These were avoidable deaths, yes. I'm telling you today that I don't think my parents would be dead by now. Because the thing is, my mother got sick and she was home for like a week when she was crying, like my stomach, all this, she could cry every day. And I would cry with her because I don't have anything to do. You don't have money, you don't have source of income, you own nothing.
Helpless.
Yes, you're in a helpless situation and your mother is sick and is crying and your dad walks out of the house and leaves your mother in such a situation. It puts a lot of anger in my heart. Up to today, you still get to feel like, no, I think something would have been done better. Because the reality is the people that I grew up with, their parents are still there. A lot of them have their parents. And you just wonder, why should my mom die? Why should my dad die? And now I have nobody. And the elder brothers are there, and the younger ones are still there, and you in the middle, you lose everything. So these are things that I think something better would have been done, yeah.
And so you decided you want to be a doctor.
This is something that
save your life,
yeah.
to save lives of your dear ones. But again, your circumstances don't make it easier.
Yeah.
You couldn't sit for your senior four.
Yeah, so I couldn't sit, and now this father, my dad tells me, come back home, get married, and I'm like, I don't want to agree with you on that. Like in the first place, I didn't want to be a farmer because going to the garden to dig was a punishment, and that is a lot of trauma that a lot of young people who went through my kind of environment are suffering from, because you used not to go to dig because it's something good to do, but because it's a punishment, it's a responsibility. If you don't dig, you cannot come back home to somebody's house. So, and I think this is something that needs to be changed, that being involved in agriculture must be a fun activity.
And also aware that everybody has to eat.
Yes.
But there must be that somebody to provide the food.
Yes.
Ricky, let's play our next song. What will be your next song?
Bajita Konkonya. Spice Diana featuring Harmonize.
Looks like you're a guy that loves his music, eh?
Yeah, I really like this song. I took because I know Spice Diana as a person. A lot of people at Safe Boy know that I really appreciate her music. She's performed for us not once, not twice.
Wow.
She's such a talented musician. I appreciate her as a person, as a young person, because you need that kind of energy for fellow young people. So, and Harmonize is such a successful musician as well. With millions of views on YouTube and stuff like this. So, and it's also very humbling to see Harmonize sing in Luganda. So, most of the Harmonize song is really usually in Swahili and stuff like that. But the guy is singing in Luganda. So it's very, very sweet. And I love the song.
Because we are dying to listen to this.
No, the song is really good.
Let's get down to the music.
And there's that part about the song that I will not mention, but it's there are some verses in the song that is very Ugandan. So
Kokonya, as chosen by Ricky Rapa, the guy, the brain behind Safe Border, together with his team, sharing his life story on Desert Island Discs. We'll be right back.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
Nice 1.3 Capital FM, Desert Island Discs series, and yes, Ricky always making you laugh, especially as you go through the motions of listening to the songs he's chosen. Ricky, you make a decision that bordered on being stubborn and disrespectful of your father, but you were in pursuit of your dream.
Yeah.
You said, Dad, I will not get married, I will not stay here. So what did you do after that? Where did you
go? What I did is I went to my auntie. Immediately when I failed to sit for my senior four, I had an auntie who was a food vendor in Leadertown. So basically she's not a food vendor. She was a cook in one of the small restaurants in town. So she was in the kitchen cooking the food for, well, more of a chef, but like a local kind of chef.
Local chef, yes.
Yeah, she would cook very nice food at home though. So I still love that food up to today.
Wow.
So this auntie of mine, I went to her and told her, look, this is the situation with my dad, and I don't think I'm happy with him anymore, and I just don't want to go back home. Can I stay with you? So my auntie hosted me, and I started looking for an opportunity in Leadertown. So actually, the honest truth is my first opportunity was being a supermarket attendant with Mabruk. Oh. I worked for one day, and they fired me the following day.
Okay, wait a minute. Yeah. We're laughing about this, but it's serious. What did you do, Ricky? Did you punch the manager?
So the guy, no, I didn't punch the manager. So I think this is this kind of serious looking at the guy. Like the guy is really like, I don't know if he's from an Arab or where. Like this guy is this
singer.
Yeah, the singer. Yeah, he's a singer. So he gets. I come for the interview. The guy tells me, okay, you can start working today. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if the spirit just didn't work out. The following day, the guy told me, no, don't come, and he paid me, and I worked for one day. So when I worked for one day...
How much did he pay you? I'm interested in paying the money.
I think gave me 2,000.
And off you went.
And off I went. That was good. That was really good. So I got that money and went away. When I went away, I found a lady on the street. She was putting stickers on people's cars. So I walked to this young girl and asked her, but what kind of job is this? She tells me, we've been contracted by the municipal authority. So we're tax collectors. So they would put tickets on people's cars, like what Metroplex is doing with people's cars in Kampala. I told her I want a job. She said, "Oh, no problem. I can take you to the office." So she took me to office. When I reached office, I told them I'm a senior 4. I finished senior 4.
Oh, you said you finished.
I know very good English. I have very good handwriting. I can do this job very well. So they give me a bit of interview, and the following day they send me to the street, and I started working with. That time the contract was given to Duong Construction. Oduong was a brother to someone very famous in Lira called Owera. Owera is known. Owera, actually, they know him as Owera Border. He's a guy with a very interesting story. He started off as a bicycle border rider.
Indeed, it's bicycle first.
Yeah. He started with a bicycle and went and was able to mobilize all the bicycle riders. And then he grew from being a bicycle rider to a bike rider, and then was able to build such a big empire. Wow. He was also a little bit very, very involved in politics. So he became such a powerful guy in Lira. He built a very nice home. At the time, he was now into tenders. His brother had a tender with the municipal to do that tax collection, street parking. So the brother was called Oduong. Unfortunately, they all passed on. May their souls rest in peace.
So you start working and ticketing people.
With ticketing people.
How long did you do that job for?
So I did that for a very short period of time. So I did that from late 2006 to early 2007. Around March there, I decided to pack everything, sell everything I had, and jumped on a bus. At the time when I was doing the job, my salary was 25,000 shillings a month.
How much was your rent? Or you're still staying?
My rent was 7,500.
Okay.
And I was sleeping in a very nice Mabati house.
Mabati from down, up, or
Yes.
just on top?
No. So a Mabati house built with mud, like blocks that are not like...
They are not burnt.
Yeah, like big blocks. Like those big blocks, like mud block. But then on the roof is Mabati. And then down was not cemented, but it was really like properly. We had the traditional way of doing stuff.
With cow dung.
Yeah, with cow dung. And it was...
In Lira City now, right?
In Lira City now. Yeah. That time I was staying in, what is the name of this place? Teshobar.
Wow.
Yeah, the place was called Teshobar.
Is that like the equivalent of Kololo, or that's senior quarters?
I would do like equivalent of...
Kamochi.
Fairly, not Kamocha, because Kamocha is so densely, is so congested. It was fairly organized. It could be like... at that time, it could have been like maybe a Bukoto. I don't know. An upcoming place, it could have been maybe Bwaise, not Kawempe, like a Kawempe.
So you are not bad,
like a Kawempe. I was very good. I was doing so well.
So you decided, why did you decide to leave?
Because my people, my friends, my age-mates were renting grass thatch houses for like 3,000 shillings a month.
For you decided to go for the big one?
I always want to dream big. Like I had a very nice house. And I bought my small mattress. I had my mattress that I came with from school. I think like 1.5 inch or something. I would lay it on the floor.
That's the thickness of a chapati, right?
So our mattresses those days had a hard cover. So one side, because a lot of people used to urinate. So Royal Form at that time used to make like one side is very hard, like it looks like for hospital. One side is really, really like real tough. So even if you urinate, it floats on it.
Were you urinating on the bed in secondary school?
What is that?
Did you use to urinate?
No, not on my mattress, because I actually slept on the reality is I started sleeping on a mattress. I started sleeping on a mattress the day I reached school, when I entered senior secondary school.
Before that, what were you sleeping on?
We were sleeping on a mat, like the locally made mat. So they would go to by the lecture, then cut those grasses, then make like mats. So that's what we would sleep on. where you'd wake up in the morning and you have 11,000, 1100, 11 million, like, you know, this kind of flat actually.
Skins.
Yeah, like you have one. Yeah. Like you have all those marks, like one everywhere, like those lines.
So you would wake up straight.
So they bought for me a mattress when I was going to school.
And that's the mattress
I carried it with its cabela, and I slept with it for
all those years. And went with it to Lira.
I went with it to Lira as well, but it had its, even I had to protect the cabela on it so that it doesn't get spoiled.
You even had to protect with the cabela?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
What did you have again in your house inside? Just paint for us a picture of that house. Do you have
two pillows?
2 pillows?
Yeah, I had 2 pillows because I bought them from the street, like 1,500 each. So I bought 2 nice pillows. And then
a radio?
Do
you have a radio?
No, at that time I didn't have. I don't think I owned a radio.
So you had the
radio was a little bit
sure.
very expensive for me.
You had the benzine.
So because I used to go to a nearby, there was a nearby bar called Ayago Guest House. So we'd go there to watch music. So at that time, it was like the time for those old musicians like Muzebi, like Super. So these were like the big guys, Boss Miko Team. It's actually
Boss Miko Team.
Yeah, Boss Miko Team. So these were the guys that you would go there. So they put for you videos. And then those were the time that Chameleon had all this hit. Bobby Wine had all these songs. So this were the time that you go to the bar to watch videos
of music.
Like that's what they would play. If you're not playing music videos, you are not a nice bar.
No one comes.
That was high class, like very, very expensive bars, by the way, that would play those videos. Because even to afford a TV was such a big trouble.
Before we play our next song, I want to know what made you decide to pack your bags and leave Lira.
So at the time, because I was doing this job and I wasn't progressing, and you know, I've always been very angry. So I went to all these hotels, you know, Lira Hotel, Africana Hotel, all these hotels, Pauline, all these big hotels in Lira. But no one was willing to give me a job.
What job were you asking for?
Manager? No. I was asking for a receptionist because I knew I could speak good English.
Wow. You always wanted your high class. You're serious.
Yeah, like I really wanted to, because I knew if I could become a receptionist, then I could become a supervisor.
Lillian Towers or what?
Yeah, the Lillian Towers at those days. We went there and we were looking for jobs, but no one gives you a job because I don't know if you're just not good enough and stuff like that. So it was very difficult.
Ricky, you know, receptionist at a hotel doesn't look like this.
At that time, I was fine. I was such a fine-looking young man. Yeah.
So we are looking for ladies, not a...
No. Those days, like...
So you never understood why they always showed you a negative answer. So
the thing is, and the honest truth also, let's also be honest here, like, a lot of these hotels were owned by people who had also so much relatives, many relatives and stuff like that. So even for you to get a job, you needed to have maybe be closer somebody in one way or the other. Because they also
you from that Guata place because nobody knew, you know,
from Arabi, I literally had no recommendation and stuff like this. And I had no friends who were like working in such big hotels that would listen to me. So I just decided angrily, as any young man, I said I want to take a risk in life. I had my uncle who was an orthopedic technologist working in the Ginger Referral Hospital. He got the job in 2006 and he was such a good friend of mine. The age difference is not that big, but he was like the most successful person at the time. He had become a doctor, you know, being an orthopedic technologist was such a big thing at home. And I decided like I want to go to Ginger. But I knew that if I asked him for permission to come to Ginger, he would not allow me. And I knew that for a fact, because I know people have been asking for permission to come and see him and he would say no. So what I decided to do is sell my bed sheets and all these small things I had and jumped on a bus. By the time I jumped on a bus, I had 27,000 shillings.
27,000?
Yes.
That's less than $10, right?
That's less than $10. Maybe at the time it was $10. Yeah. So I jumped on a bus. That was, I think, Otada. I came up to the bus park. When I reached bus park, that's when I called the guy. because you would go to a call box. You know those days where those MTN call box, you'd go there.
Put a coin.
This one where you have a lady seated. So on that number, you read your number. And those days the numbers were here.
In the head.
Yeah. Today the only number I think I have in my head is possibly my number.
Or for your wife.
Like only my one number. And I think for my wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
But those days, all the numbers.
The numbers, like you would just see the number once like this and it would beep.
Yeah.
Because the head was so empty. Like, I mean, like people were so relaxed that you had, you had a lot of space like to put these things. So I read for him the number, read for her the number, and then she makes a call and I tell the guy, look, I'm coming to your place. I'm in Lira, in the bus park. That was like a Buganda bus park. I think it's called Buganda bus park.
In Kampala or in Lira?
In Lira, in Kampala now.
In Kampala, yes.
In Kampala, now. That was now in the evening, around 4 p.m., 5 p.m. And I called the guy and tell him, look, I'm on my way coming to your place. And the guy first keeps quiet on phone. Remember, those minutes used to count, like
every
like ting, 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 ting would count a lot of money. The guy keeps quiet. And I'm like, Hanko. And then he responds, it's like, but I am in a workshop in Mbara. You know when someone says, but I am in a workshop, so he tells you there's something fishy. So the guy tells me he's in a workshop in Mbara. So I get so confused. So when I got so confused, I remembered I had an OB. This OB of mine, people never really get to know that some of the stories. This OB of mine, he was such an active young man and he impregnated someone in the village at that time. And fire. So he, so he was here and he was hiding. So whenever we
now you knew he was around.
I knew he was on Entebbe Road. But when I called him up, he tells me, I explained to him my situation because he was such a good friend.
You had his number?
Yes, I had his number here. I had all the numbers here. I had all the numbers of people who matter here. So, here. Like I would get your number and put it here. Like, like add it. You would go to add it here. So I explained to him my situation on phone. And the guy tells me, look, I'm actually in Ginger. So what you do, just take a taxi and come to Ginger. I'll be waiting for you at the petrol station. Total. That was the only travel at Total petrol station. That was the biggest travel I had in my life. Traveling from Kampala. Traveling from Kampala to Ginger. Remember, I made so many calls, and that was a little bit costly. I also only had 27,000 shillings, and I think at the time bus was around 18,000 shillings.
So now you are left with about 3,000.
And I also ate something on the road, and my money was really getting really low, and I needed an extra, I think, 5,000 shillings to get to Ginger. And because of the many calls I was making, these calls were really expensive. Money had become very limited, like small. But the guy tells me, I actually told him I don't have all the money. He said, I will pay for you. You come. I will be waiting for you at Total, at the petrol station, Total. Remember, I didn't know how far it was from Kampala to Ginger. This is an 80-kilometer journey. In my head, I'm just like, this is 15 minutes. I'm already in what? In Ginger. Now, I start the journey. And by the way, I started disturbing these people from around Boyogerere. Every time I would see a petrol station, like the conductor, I sat next to the conductor and I'm like, my brother is waiting for me at the petrol station. I don't have money to pay you. So you have to make sure you put me at the petrol station.
So the first Total is in Boyogerere.
I mean, I started disturbing this guy from Boyogerere. Like, I don't know. Like, I started disturbing this guy from Boyogerere. Till we reached. By the time you reach Ginger, you're already tired. Yes.
Because in Lugazi, there's a Total.
Like, every time I would see a petrol station, like, because the guy told me, like, the petrol station was on my right. So every time I would see a petrol station on my right, I'm like, this is the gate, this is it. So we drove from here, and I was able to reach, but we arrived late. We arrived, like, close to around 8 p.m. So I stopped at the wrong petrol station. Every time I would make, because when they just reached Ginger, because I actually did not differentiate petrol, Total, this, I was just like, petrol station. Because
Shell.
They would say Shell and everything would look like Shell. They would say Total and everything would look like Total. Because when you hear petrol station, you only know every petrol station is what?
Shell.
It's Shell. Because from where I came from Aguata to Lira, there is no petrol station. There was no petrol station at the time. So don't think I knew the brand. Nah. So luckily, we got to the Total in town in Jinja, near the stage. Mm-hmm. And I got out and made a call with my cabela because I had, there was those nice caveras that was a bit plastic, like the
peel,
with
PIL.
What peel with some
with
design.
With a calendar outside.
Yeah, with a calendar or something. So I had it in my hand. So I went to another. It's okay. So I went to another lady to make a call again, to call my brother, my friend.
For his money.
So now the taxi guy actually now comes with me to make the call. And now I'm making the call and the guy is taking long to arrive. And the call is accumulating. So the call had become 1,400 shillings. So there was a lot of money at the time. And now the taxi guy wants his money and I don't have the money. So the taxi guy now tries to grab my cabela. He wants to go with my cabela. Of course, it had some small cloth of mine and the guy wanted to take it. So what I did is that because the guy over delayed and now the taxi guy was became impatient. And he said, I want to go, give me the thing, you will get. So actually now what I did is now we almost ended up into a fight. And I knew exactly because the guy was a little bit short and I'm just like, and I was a little bit taller than him. And I was a little bit good looking. So I'm just like, no, you're not going to take my things. So I told the guy, like, you're not going to take these things. Don't joke here. So I pulled the thing and I'm like, you lady, keep these things. My brother is coming. And when he comes, he's going to give you the money for the taxi guy and also for your money because I also don't have money to pay you. So now the lady grabs the thing and keeps it there now, remains standing. So now that's how we harmonize the situation. So the taxi guy left knowing that I'm coming to this mobile money. So now the taxi guy talks to the lady in Luganda, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what they talked about. And then later on my brother came. And then we paid the money the following day. Actually, didn't even, this friend of mine came. He actually didn't even have the money. Hey. So we left the things there. We went up to Mpumude. Yes. So he came with his wife to pick me. We went to Mpumude. We stayed there. The following day, he left for work. No, he left for work very early in the morning. So he came back. Then we went to the bank. He picked money. We went and paid. So when we were picking my cabela, my luggage, that I came with, I saw many people on the street. A lot of people doing the same job I was doing in Lira. And I told this guy, hey man, these people are doing, there's also this kind of job here. I used to do this in Lira. So he said, let's go and ask. So we saw like a guy and a lady on the street. Mm-hmm. So we went to them and asked them, what is this? Can we know how to do this. Can you direct us to the office? Are they recruiting? So the guy directs us to office. I went to the office with my brother. Told the guys, man, I don't know Luganda, but I can speak very good English. I know how to write. I'm a senior 4 graduate.
I've done this in Lira.
I've done this in Lira, highly experienced. The following day, they gave me a job. Wow. They brought me in front of Bank of Baroda.
Wow.
And those days, in front of Bank of Baroda, they used to bring 10,000, 15,000. The maximum they would bring was 25,000. And I broke the record. I think I brought like 75,000 shillings.
What did you do? You were snatching the money out of people?
I was just active. What I did was that the bank was not very busy. But then there were empty spaces that people were parking on. So I actually now decided to roll it like the whole street. So even you would park where you are not supposed to be charged, I'd put a ticket on your car, put a ticket on your car, and people paid me. And I didn't know Luganda, I didn't know Lusoga. So you'd come to me and I speak to you in English.
Hello, please, can you pay?
Yeah, and some of these people, some of these guys, you would meet them on the street and they don't know English, but they're driving a nice car.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and I'm like, you have to pay. Pay how much? 200. No, at that time it was 500 shillings. No, 200. At the beginning it was 200. 200 shillings. So the guy would, no, it was 500. In Lira was 200. In Engineer was 500. So I told them, you have to pay 500 shillings. No, 500 shillings, yes. So the guys would give you money. Before you realize it, I've collected so much money. So I went to office and there was a whole meeting and people couldn't believe what this young man has brought. And they said, man, Langis are very honest people. They're great people. They're hardworking. I mean, before the end of that week, I was deployed in the business area. That was the main market of Ginger.
Wow.
That street. So then I had a very good time in Ginger. And that's how actually now when I was working in front of the Ginger market, I connected with a lot of other people from our place who are into security guarding and stuff like that. And I ended up getting interested into security work. And that's how I actually now ended up joining Security Plus Uganda Limited from Ginger.
You joined the security firm?
Yes.
As a guard?
Yes. And the company is called Security Plus. They're in Bugolobi today. They're the ones who brought me to Kanjoncha Street in Kampala.
Okay, let's play the next song. When we return, then we see how you come back to Kampala as security guard.
The next song is by Romeo Odong. And everyone knows the song. Even the
homeboy.
The homeboy.
Yeah.
It's time now to get a little bit home. There's the song I'm going to play for you.
The last one, which you promised me. But then this one of Romeo.
Yeah, so the one for Romeo is really like one of the biggest hits from Northern Uganda as we speak today. It's a song that everyone knows. I think you've heard about it. It's a song that we sing when we're happy. It's a song that we sing when we're celebrating. Sometimes we also sing even when we are not very, very happy. It's a song that is meant to give some hype and also allow us to celebrate. And as Christians, it's always good to say Yoleng.
Yoleng.
Pililili Yoleng. And then you dance to the tune as well.
Yeah, so it's, as you shake your head.
Yeah. So it's actually religious. It's cultural. It's a song that they will play and the whole tent will move. Even the tent will move.
Even the tent itself.
You know, like the song that they play, and because everyone is getting up at the same time, the tent will also get up. So it's really like the song that you can play 100 times and no one will get tired.
Wow.
It's a song that you will play in church and people will dance to it. It's a song that you will play to in a nightclub. Even when people are high on Guinness, they will get up and dance to it.
Wow, that's an interesting one. I think this is the first time that song is playing on the program, and I can tell you what, this program is staying forever.
You should be playing this song like every time.
As an anthem, eh?
Yeah,
as we'll have a conversation around this program and Safe Border, and we see how we can at least sponsor that particular section of that.
All right.
3 minutes.
You have it with me because this is about my...
your own heritage, eh? We'll be right back. It's just Thailand.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
Yes, it's Ricky Rapa. He prefers to pronounce it as Rapa. He has to give it some bit of, hype and all that, but we do appreciate.
You need to give it a vibe.
Yeah, he's giving it a vibe. He's sharing with us his life story. But who is Ricky? Ricky is the brain behind Surfboard, and his life story is progressing so interestingly that we don't even know at what point to stop. But that's Ricky's story. So Ricky, you are running, parking, ticketing in Ginger.
Yeah.
You connect with some boys from home.
Yes.
And they get you into security.
Yes.
You pick interest.
Yeah, so this guy is telling me, this job is very good. They pay you salary at the end of the month, because here I was working on commission. They pay you salaries at the end of the month. You have like you have a contract, and they also pay you NSF. So when you get old, you have some money to eat from and stuff like this. So I got interested in the story. And what actually happens is that they told me I needed to have a senior 4 paper. Remember, I did not sit senior 4, so the best thing was to look for NASA Road in Ginger. And put the peppers together.
You little crook at a young age.
Every challenge should be an opportunity.
Absolutely, you're right, Rick. I can't agree with you.
And yes, so I got to NASA Road of
Ginger,
put my peppers together with my name and stuff like that, and then I went for the interview. I passed it very well. Remember, I had all the qualifications
and the drive.
Yes, so one of the things that is very good for a security guard is the color blend.
Color blend. Okay, Rick, to be honest, when I said, come, let's have a conversation, I didn't expect you to laugh so hard.
No. The color blend is very important for your personal security. That's why actually
you can easily camouflage.
That's why actually
you want to be seen when you smile.
That's why even when you look at like the army uniform, it looks closer to the grass. It's greenish and it's a camouflage. So you really, the idea is basically for you to be able to protect yourself first before
you protect the one you are supposed to protect.
Yes. So the color blend is very critical. And for me, given that I came from the north, I had that. Like it was really like perfect.
That was the default setting.
Because
factory
because we were guarding people's houses. So you would just stand in a little bit of a small shade and a shadow, and no one would see you. They would see you as a shadow. So
until you smile, you always say, "Where's Mama?"
And then you smile because, and also as a scary, you don't really overly smile. You always like, because you're angry and you have a heavy gun.
So they gave you a gun, or you had a bow and arrow?
No, I had a gun. Yeah.
So you went for training? How to
yeah.
shoot?
I did that.
What kind of gun do you have? You have the automatic one, or the one which you shoot and then you wait for it to pull?
No. So at the time, I only used two types of gun. I did not use the pump action because I didn't like it. It was more for shooting animals. That big thing that throws. Action. Yeah. But basically,
it releases bullets the size of a battery cell.
The bullet is like a battery cell.
So you enter this farm and you start guarding. What was your first deployment?
So, because people felt like I was such a strong guy and such a guy with the potential, I got deployed in Lugazi. No, in Kakira Sugar Works.
Oh.
Now, not in the factory. At the time, they were working on the road. So there were those solar lights that they would put on the road to show people the diversion. Please note those solar lights, they would put them with a battery and then the indication, right? So they deployed me there for the first 1 week. The first 1 week and the second week. So I was there for 2 weeks in one location. In the middle of sugarcane plantation with my gun. No water, no nothing. This side is sugarcane, the other side is sugarcane, and only what you have and what you have to guard is the solar panel. The small panel with the indication and a battery, because people would come to steal the battery. And that was my first deployment. I got a little bit unhappy because
there were no thieves coming for you to shoot.
There were no thieves coming. There were no people saying thank you. There was no human being to talk to in the middle of the night. It was so scary that it would get so dark that even the gun would not help you. You would feel like you don't even have where to sit because the solar panel is, because the way the solar panel is built, it's a little bit metallic, right? So in the night, those metal would become wet. They would actually have moisture on them. So you wouldn't even attempt to sit on it. So every day I would go back home very dirty. Because remember, you're in the middle of the road and there are trucks moving the whole night and they would pour all the dust on you. So I spent there 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, I got deployed into another assignment. A shop, I think it was an MTN shop. And then later on, I got deployed in one of the residents. Before I could take long, I woke up one day and I was at work. And I saw a truck coming and they said, "You're up for transfer." And I'm like, "What are you guys talking about?" They said, "You're going to Kampala." And I'm like, "To Kampala?" They said, "Yes." I tried to resist. They said, "Panda Gari." Here, we follow command. There's nothing like logic. There's nothing like reasoning here. We follow command, order. So I lost the conversation. I jumped into I think it was a Isuzu. This is Suzu. Yeah, so we entered in the Suzu. They got another person. I handed over the gun. I got in the truck and I was driven. Like, the way they drive cows. You know the way they drive cows?
Yeah, to the abattoir.
Yeah, to the abattoir. So for us, we were actually standing like this. So you had so many young people just standing in the car. So they drove us all the way from Jinja to Kampala.
What about did you have your own property?
I had a small property. So I picked what I could pick, what was actually in office. But what was at home, I couldn't pick it because they did not drive me back home. So then I called my uncle and he sent me whatever I had at home, which was still very little, just a few clothes. When I reached Kampala, we were actually here on Kajoncha Street. And then we would be sleeping. The office had got a tent behind. So we'd sleep in the tent behind during the day, and at night we'd go for work. And lunch we'd be having it from Kamocha Market. So there's a place in Kamocha when you enter the market, from the butchery. Then you slope down where they sell charcoal. There are actually some restaurants there. So we used to eat lunch there for 500, 700 shillings. Nkatingo ina sente, nyanusulu sambu. So the one for 700 would be beans, posho, some one piece of sweet potatoes, and a bienda.
But on an ordinary day, what would you eat?
What would I eat? I would buy cassava, the fried cassava, and then eat it, then take a lot of water.
And that's your lunch?
Yes, yeah. Like you spend like 200 shillings, buy that cassava, eat it, and take water.
What was your salary at that time?
It was around 80,000 shillings.
Were you in touch with people at home, your brothers, or no?
Yes, I was.
Ah, okay. And you had a mobile phone now?
Not yet.
Not yet. So how were you in touch with them?
I had the numbers. You would call, then they call, then they call.
You would call, then they call, then they call.
Yes, and then they would give you time. You call in the next 30 minutes, and in 30 minutes, the person you want will be picking the phone. And later on, I bought a phone, though. I bought like a small phone. I think it was a Motorola or something.
So you now take us through this whole gardening thing. So how long did you garden? Where were
So
you?
when I was here, I spent like a month in Kampala on Kasyate Street. And again, at the time, Security Plus had got a contract with SBI and RCC when they were doing the cabela Kisoro Road. So they needed guards, and they needed good quality guards.
With the color blend.
And also like height matters, like the height was also okay. So I got transferred as well. So we got put in the bus and they transferred from Kampala to Kabale. Woo! And that's how I got myself to Western Uganda. So I spent like a year and something. Then I was brought back to Kampala because I disagreed with the manager at the time. After I got fired, I started looking for another job. So I joined another company called Sex Security, even guarding. But also my former, one of my workmates had a job at a Kamwesi hostel in one day gear. That's how I joined a Kamwesi hostel. So at that time, when he had a job, he knew that I was working with Sex Security. So what this guy did is he told me that government is recruiting people to join the army. So would you want to go and join the army? I told him, man, I'm tired of this job. I would want a place where I can sit in one location. So what he did, he said, if you don't want to join the army, I can give you my job. So he came and called me, introduced me to the manager. We had a good conversation, and the guy gave me the job. So he trained me for like 2 weeks and he left, and I took over his job.
What job was that?
Guarding. So I became a
Kamwesi.
private security guard for a Kamwesi hostel in early 2009. But with a better salary, the salary was 120,000 shillings.
Wow. And
Yes.
you were staying there.
Yeah. I don't know how much you were earning at the time, but in 2009, I was earning 120,000 shillings. And I took over the opportunity, and that's where my life literally changed from. I was telling,
How did it change?
So let me first take you back. So when I joined Akamwesi, I got exposed because Akamwesi had young kids of my age at that time. Those people at the university were my age mates. And I felt like these are the people that I need to interact with today.
Let's agree, Ricky, that your life story is so interesting and so intriguing that we can't finish it in an hour for this program.
I think we need
So what we're going to do,
need like a week.
so what we're
Sorry.
going to do, we're going to play our last song
Okay.
for today. We say coherent to our listeners.
Is that the last song?
Tonight? Yes.
Okay.
Because we've spoken for the time. Then we return here next week and complete this story. There's no way I am going to cut this story.
There are two songs.
No, we will play the other songs again. So guess what you wanted to be your last song for today? Play it, Ricky. Then we return next week and finish this story. This story, I just can't cut it.
There's this song called Big Deal by Chris Martin.
To your listeners and viewers, I mean, look, Ricky's story, I'm afraid I just can't cut it. I just can't shortchange you, even myself, from listening to this incredible story. I mean, look, we're talking about a young man from a little village in Dokoro district who's gone through all that he has gone through. If you just joined us, you have no idea how much you've missed. But he's a security guard. And let's not forget that at the point he's being a security guard, he has a life that's going to be transformed into the phenomenon that is safe border today. You can't beat that. You can't change it. So let's close it out for today. When we return next week, still Ricky on the program with more of his life story.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
I'm a big deal. You're my friend, I'm a big deal. Yeah, we're kinda important.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.